Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines. And we're just admiring our fully customised mothership from the last episode, where we created this really nice little waterfront downtown park, nestled in between the port and the downtown over there, with like stunning views from our little custom rooftop bar. I'm loving this angle of the skyline. So I hope you enjoyed that one, but for today we're going to be turning our attention back to a bit of industry, and we've got this big glaring massive space over here right by the cargo airport near to the nuclear power plant over there. So I feel like this would be an ideal spot for a car factory. So of course, before we start this, let's just dive into Google Earth and have a little look at the inspiration that I'll be using for this today. Hey, so here we are at the Toyota factory near Derby. I'm pretty sure it's the Toyota factory anyway. It says Toyota. But this is a big car factory anyway. And this is what we're going to be using to inspire our car factory build today. So we're not going to be just simply placing down the car factory asset. We are going to be doing quite a lot to it, because I'm really loving in particular this entranceway. Little tree-lined median here onto a roundabout into the main entrance to the car factory. Obviously lots of car parks here for the staff, and this in particular I found quite interesting. There's a little nursery over here. I'm assuming it's for the staff's children, but I definitely want to include something like that, potentially the child healthcare centre. Lots of warehouses and logistics over this side, tons of lorries lined up and the such like. I'm really liking this in between the two roads here. We can definitely do a design like that. And then just the factory sprawl that we have over here, which then goes out to these massive, massive lots of cars. And they are all lined up in very, very neat rows. They all look white as well, like very distinct colours. So I think, yeah, we need to bear in mind that. We have got a few blue, brighter cars over this side, but this sprawl is just quite incredible. We're not going to be putting in this many cars because I don't quite have the space for this, but we're definitely going to be trying to replicate this to a certain extent. And then I think the crowning jewel on all of this is this test track over here, which I cannot wait to do a version of. This is super exciting. And actually, when you zoom in as well, these corners are really quite heavily banked. So I think we'll be doing that with a bit of node controller. And there's not really anything much to this. A lot of grass in the middle of it, a little concrete entrance here with a little hut, but very plain and open. So I think the most exciting thing for me is going to be getting these banked corners in, because, yeah, that looks pretty awesome. But yeah, this is what we're going to be using as inspiration. So it's going to be a lot of lined up cars, a lot of lined up trucks, and an awful lot of warehouses and factory products. So let's just dive into the build. Okay, so the first thing that I do want to do is go ahead and place in our car factory. I'm super excited about this. This is the most exciting factory to me. And of course, this is all coming from the Industries DLC. If you do want to pick that up, please do consider using my instant gaming link, which is in the description below. It'll also help to support the channel if you purchase via this too. And there are massive discounts available on all Cities Skylines DLCs and a whole host of other games. So do go and check that out. So if we just place it in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Move It. I kind of want this quite central, I think, and slightly further back so we can get this nice roundabout entrance in too. And I think backing actually onto this highway as well will give us some quite nice viewpoints, but it would be good to raise this up just a little bit, I think. Let's just grab it with Move It, and I'm going to try and raise it up to the level of the land on the left-hand side there. And then I think before we get in any road networks, let's do a little bit of terraforming just to smooth out this land. Okay, so this looks truly terrible down this end right now, but we will absolutely sort this out when it comes to the detailing. We'll make these banks much smoother. Where it is steep against the road, we'll add in potentially a few little rocks. We may just leave the cliff face. I actually really like it on this theme, so we'll see when we get to it, but we'll definitely make this look a lot more realistic than just this massive, really rough, smoothed out area. So let's now come in with our road network. And I'm going to have the entrance down here. I kind of want it really where the land is relatively flat to this road, because this does sink down quite a bit as we go down towards the prison and the nuclear power plant. So let's have it coming out just a little bit like that. And I'm going to use this unmarked suburban road for it, which I feel like is quite an appropriate thing to do. And then we're going to bring it pretty straight out along the front here, just following the edge of this terrain line round. So that is making these quite steep now, which doesn't look too bad, I don't think. So yeah, we'll keep that in mind. And then we'll come straight up here, and this is where actually I would like to replicate where the little nursery is. So we'll definitely be doing that on that side. Lots of warehouses in this side. And then I would like to just turn Snappy back on, bring this right round the back of the car factory here. So we'll snap that in there and bring this across. Just need this to go a little bit further so we can snap that in at a nice angle there. This is going to kind of create a border for our whole area. So let's bring this on a little bit further. Now in terms of the front of it, I'm going to come out straight here and I'm going to replicate that roundabout. So what I would like is the 2-lane road with trees. I think we'll go for this one. Let's turn angle snapping off. We'll bring it out to about there. And we already have our lovely common vase trees on it, which are much better than the vanilla one. So happy with that. And then let's go into roundabout build and we'll build ourselves a really small little roundabout here. Thinking even the smallest size actually for this. We could go somewhere in between. Let's say we'll go for 20 here. Yeah, I think that works. And of course, let's just upgrade this road to one with no parking. We don't want people parking on our little roundabout there. So we'll do it like that. And then we'll come in with a bit of node controller to remove the crossings and things, I think, afterwards. But for now, that will do as a nice entrance. Then, of course, we're going to be putting in our staff car parks down here, which we will do a little bit later on when we come to do the detailing. And I'm just going to clear out these trees for a second so we've got a bit more space to play with. So just thinking logistically about access to this, we've obviously got this big highway access here, which comes down into this roundabout by the cargo airport, across and over to here. This road also follows through to another exit onto the highway here. But because we've got a big car factory here, I think we're going to need another exit. So what I would like to do here is just a very basic slip road coming off just this one direction on the highway. So of course anyone coming from the opposite direction would have to go through that roundabout. But it just means we'll filter off slightly less of the traffic that would ordinarily be going through there. So I think that that will help with traffic flow just a little bit. So let's just grab our highway roads and we'll put this in. And I want to make sure obviously it's not too close to any of the other junctions. I think we'll come in like this, follow it quite closely round, and then we'll split it off about here. And then with this road, I'm just going to bring this across like so. And then we can join it up here in both directions. So let's just pull that out. Go back into our highway slip roads. We'll get a nice curve on this. And bring this round this way. And join it into our highway there. Now, we've got we've got 3 nodes in between, so I'm not too concerned with the traffic on that, I think. And because it is really just this one factory and they're going to have to drive all the way around on slow roads, it would be quicker for them probably to come off this way and round. So I'm hoping it doesn't channel too much traffic through this area, but we'll keep our eyes on that. Let's just, of course, check the slope here. So we'll just use a little bit of move it, I think, for this, just to slope that down a little bit so it's a little bit more gentle coming off there. And of course, when we come to do the detailing, we will be adding in some IMT and the such like here. Let's make that a little bit smoother with a bit of node controller. We'll pull that back just a little bit. Yeah, that's a bit better. And same goes for here as well. Let's just make this a little bit smoother. And of course, I do want to make sure that this is dedicated turning lane here, although we're not really doing lane mathematics again, because, you know, I'm not anticipating a ridiculous amount of traffic. I say as there goes someone on their scooter. Clearly not going to the factory. Maybe they work there, actually. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so that gives us just a very basic highway slip just in that one direction, which should help channel a little bit, I think. Now, the one other thing with this factory as well is I feel like we want to make this into more of a complex. Like, we've got fences all the way around here. So let's just go and use Network Multi-Tool. And I'm going to unlock the fences down this side. And also down this side as well. And then we are just going to grab our bulldozer tool and remove these, trying not to delete half the actual factory building. Because then what we can do is actually open up the complex on either side, and I think it will make it feel like more of one cohesive space as opposed to having lots of fences and division amongst it. And we've still got it on the front and back, which I'm fine with, because this will be the staff car parking out here, and at the back it's just a sort of access road, so I'm totally fine with that. Now, the other part of the road I do want to bring in is this little gap where we can have these lorries parked in between, which I really quite liked the look of. So again, I think what I will use is the concrete road for this. Kind of want to leave slightly more let's turn snapping off because I kind of want to leave about 2.5 blocks, I think, for this. So we'll come in like that and then join up on this corner. And then we'll just come straight down this way. And we're going to have to use a little bit of Move It to line that up nicely. We could actually revert back to this road. Potentially that's nicer. And then with a bit of surface painter in the middle of it, what we can do is then line our trucks up in the middle of the road here, just like we saw on Google Earth, which I really quite liked the look of. So let's just paint that in for now and remind ourselves that that's what we're doing here. And of course this little fence is overlapping, so again let's just go in and use Network Multi-Tool. We'll unlock that section of fence and just delete it out. Okay, so down this side of the factory, what I do want to have is a lot of warehouses. So let's just bring out that road like that. And we're going to go into our warehouses. Again, I'm just going to stick to using vanilla assets for this, as we have done for a lot of Auridon. And we're going to put in a large warehouse. And I want to make sure that we've got our room for our car parking this end. So I think we'll drop it in about there. And then I'd like to add in some smaller medium warehouses just to extend it over this side. Now we do need to bring this road slightly further back so we've got a little bit more room for this. Like that. And then let's go ahead and add in some of our smaller warehouses here. Now I want to use a mixture of warehouse yards and actually the small warehouse because we do need a lot of products for the car factory. So if we just remind ourselves, we need animal products, plastic, glass and metals. We need at least 4 units here. And I think what would be good is also to have something for unique factory products here too. So we've got 5 warehouses at the moment. We may even have more as time goes on, but let's just see about that. So I'm going to line this all up quite nicely. And what we can do is create a bit of a warehouse yard with a bit more detailing in the middle here. So I think we'll line it up with the back of the large warehouse there, and then we do just need to provide a little bit of road access for these warehouses. So let's bring that in like that, which should satisfy that need. I've got notifications turned off. There we go. Okay, so this one doesn't have road access, so again, let's just bring in a plain concrete road like that, which gives entrance into that warehouse. So that should all be sufficient. I think here as well I will upgrade this into the plain concrete road. Again, just so it looks like it kind of transitions actually into the main yard of this warehouse. And we do want some detailing here to join these together so it doesn't feel quite so disjointed there. So we will come on to that in the detailing time lapse as well. But for now, I think that sort of works for our warehouse yard. So then let's have a little discussion about the nursery. So it's a very random placement for it. It's not going to be wholly efficient because there actually isn't any residential here, although we will be having some more residential in this side. And I don't think... Oh, we do have a child healthcare clinic there. But even so, aesthetic purposes, I'd really like this in to kind of act as the staff nursery like we saw on Google Earth. So I'm just going to place that in here for now. And then we'll get our concrete road again. I'm going to use a lot of this around this complex. So we're just going to bring out a little section like that with a car park behind. So we'll grab parking lot roads for that. I think we'll just have the rundown one because this is a factory area. And we'll just bring that in round the back like so. Let's tuck that in nicely to the back of the child healthcare clinic there. So just like that. So that kind of gives us our little nursery area as well, and lots of detailing to be had around there too. So in terms of enlarging the actual car factory here, what I would like to do is also introduce another factory that we are yet to use, which is the electronics factory. So let's place this in, and what I would like to do with this is have it really up close to the car factory here, so it looks like it's pretty much blended in. I've got a bit of bobbing to do to get rid of some of these horrendous vanilla trees, but we'll come on to that. You can see the buildings are kind of just about touching in a couple of places. So I feel like that works quite nicely in terms of an extension to our main car factory. And again, with the warehouses over this side, we'll add in some more buildings here where these trees are to kind of help it blend in a little bit better. But then it starts to look like one much larger complex as opposed to just plopping in just the car factory by itself. Now, in terms of what the electronics need, so it's plastic, glass and metal, which I think is all covered by this as well. So we should be able to keep the same warehouses. So let's just go ahead and assign these. So we have got plastics, let's say glass and metals. which is the electronics, and then this one also has animal products, so let's go ahead and do that here as well. And then we'll change this one to unique factory products, and then that is all of them assigned, and that should serve this area pretty well. And let's, of course, on both of these, let's ramp up our production rate. We'll have 150 and let's really start raking in the money, I think, with these two factories. And I can't wait, actually. Oh, here we are. Here we go. We have got our first little lorry of cars driving away. I absolutely love seeing these drive around the city. It's such a nice aesthetic. That's my favourite thing about the car factory, actually, is seeing the truckloads of cars driving around. So super happy to see that. I have just spotted as well this junction. Let's do dedicated turning lanes. We'll turn off those traffic lights and we'll have a little bit of node controller to help smooth this out. So the next thing I do want to talk about is the security entrances and exits, because I feel like that's quite important for this. So we're definitely going to put one here. Now, this is kind of going into the main entrance. There's no other roads round into it, so I'm not too worried about here, but we'll definitely have a security entrance here and also over this side coming in off that motorway. So how we are going to do this, I'm just going to pause the game for a second. We're going to delete this little segment of road right here. And I'm just going to drag this further forward, and actually this one's slightly further back, just so we've got a tiny bit more room to play with. We're going to need to adjust this corner a little bit to make that a bit smoother, but that is okay. And then in here, we're going to grab one unit roads, one unit roads, and we're going to just very simply draw these in. So I'll turn off snapping for this. And I'm going to do one that way. This is going to look very strange until it looks all right. I'll do one that way. And then let's just draw these in slightly closer together. And what we can do here is use a lot of node controller to straighten this all out. So here, that's not too bad. This side needs a lot of work. Let's draw these back just a little bit. And then we probably want a tiny bit more move it just to straighten these out. And then on node controller, what I am going to do is just shift out this red road slightly here, and also the blue road will go the opposite direction, just so it separates them out a little bit. And we're going to do exactly the same thing here, just so we've got a slightly larger split in the middle in which to add our security gate checkpoint. Then we'll just go back to move it, and we're just going to try and straighten these out a little bit better so it doesn't look quite so jarring. So it'll take a little bit of playing around, but that should work quite nicely. So let's get a tiny bit of surface painter just to fill in that middle section here. And then we're going to find our barriers. And yeah, what I do want is this in here very, very firmly. And I think this is where we'll kind of start the fence point as well, so that anyone... We'll kind of fence in the complex from this point so that anyone coming through here, yeah, would need to go through the checkpoint. And now it's making me think that potentially the road for the nursery should come up a little bit earlier. So before the checkpoint. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. So let's just go ahead and adjust that. Yeah, there we go. That's a bit better, I think, so they can get to the nursery without having to go through the checkpoint. And then I have just as well used node controller to turn off the markings, so we haven't got any crossings there, which I feel like is quite a lot nicer. So yeah, that seems pretty cool. So what we'll do is go ahead and do exactly the same thing over here. Okay, so yeah, pleased with how that looks, and I did just use a little bit of network skins to get rid of the road signs and the arrows and things like that, which I feel like looks a little bit cleaner. Same goes for over this side as well. Although we do now need a tiny bit more brush tool to cover up that tearing in the road there. But yeah, it all seems to be working. People are flowing through. It looks pretty cool, I think. Nice little way to put in that barrier anyway, rather than just using one of the roads with medians and plopping it on it. Gives a bit more space. Okay, so let's come on to the test track design. Super excited for this. So again, I'm going to use our plain concrete roads. I'm just going to use the connector one, which is one way, because it's slightly wider than the segment piece I would add as well. And then what we're going to do is try and replicate that kind of the design that we saw at the toy to test track. So we're going to have two roads like this, which are going to be parallel. So let's actually turn on road guidelines for this. And see if we can get, yeah, the road guideline from there. So we want to come out at a parallel level like that. Let's turn off road guidelines. We can go just a little bit further. Keep angle on to make sure that this is nice. We'll have to change those directions in just a second. And then, yeah, we're going to bring out our little curvy corners here, which are not going to be super symmetrical. But we'll try and do it as best we can. So something like that is what I'm thinking. So we've got these nice corners in. Let's turn that around, obviously, so we've got our full one-way track going in here. Now, I do just want to make sure that all of these are the same height. So let's grab our nodes with move it. And I don't want the highway nodes, actually. We just want the test track ones like that. We'll do Control H and just make sure everything's the same height. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit banked here by the railway, but I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, so to get our banked corners, let's go to Node Controller. We'll start here, and what we're going to do is do a twist. So we're going to twist it inwards, and I'm kind of thinking, like, what is a suitable banking for this? We don't want it too banked, but I guess they're testing things. So I'm thinking 15 degrees is maybe quite nice. So we'll come down, and we'll do this on all of these. So we want to make sure that we're going in the correct direction with this. So let's come in here again, and twist like this, and then this gives us this really cool banked corner. Wondering if we do need to do another node further on. I think we will. And then it comes out flat and it transitions all right there. This is looking interesting here on the surface. Perhaps that's because these two nodes are slightly too far apart. Let's just twist this to a lesser extent. Let's say 3 degrees, so it's a slightly smoother transition coming back down into the flat part of the track there. And then we'll go ahead and do exactly the same thing this side. So yeah, there we go. I'm really quite enjoying this. And I did notice as well, actually, that on Google Earth there was a banking all the way around this. So I feel like that would be quite a nice thing to add in. So I am actually just going to get our terrain terraforming tools. We're going to grab the height of there and we're going to kind of pull it around as best we can. Just to create a very slight banking. In fact, we might raise it, but on a super low brush strength like that, and then we can grab it. Let's turn the brush strength off and just pull that round so we get this kind of larger bank all the way around the outside of the track there. I think here we can be a little bit smoother, because what I do want to do is bring this road in for access. So again, let's go back to our concrete roads. We're going to use everywhere here, and we'll just bring this in down to here so that we can create a nice little kind of pit area. Sort of similar to what we saw on Google Earth. And there was a very tiny building here. I think what I'd like to use for that is just a very small office building. I'm thinking no more than 2 deep. I'm thinking probably one of these might be good, just for a little test centre. So let's just pull that back out to here. And again, we can give it a little bit of road access just to help it out like that. And then a little bit of detailing really needed around here, but not too much. Like, we'll do a bit of surface painter to join things up. But it was a lot of open grass and the such like. A few little props around here will be needed, but that'll pretty much be it. And then we just need to come and obviously finish off around the railway track edge there. So I think we are at a point now where we do need to add in the details. So in this area here next to the electronics factory is going to be the massive car storage yard. So we'll just be doing rows and rows and rows of prop cars all lined up with some of the line markings on some surface painted concrete pavement area here. We'll be adding in a few more little warehouse details, the stack of lorries at the back here like we saw on Google Earth, a few more trees and such like around, and then obviously some big staff car parking at the front. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the time lapse and I'll be right back. Okay, so I had so much fun putting this together. Like, anyone who knows the channel will know I'm a motorsport junkie and I love anything car related, so this was really fun for me. Plus it's combining my love of industrial detailing as well, so a lot of fun was had. And here we go, here's the trucks coming out. Absolutely love it. So yeah, just up at the entrance here, I have used Prop Anarchy to blow up some of these Jubilee signs, because obviously the factory has the Jubilee sign on it. If I could change it to the name of the factory, which we're going to come on to in a second, I would. But I don't have any signs saying that for now, so if anyone wants to make them, let me know. But for now, we've got our Jubilee signs at the entrance there. And then we come on, we just got the huge staff car parks, and I've used a little bit of surface painter to remove a lot of the concrete around certain parts of the car park, so we can have these nice tree line bits in the middle of it, which is kind of how I saw it on Google Earth in the Toyota factory. So liking how that's done. And then down at the entrance, we've made this a little bit more landscaped, a little bit more official, with just a very basic bush pattern. And then creating a little centrepiece to our roundabout, which is showing off some of the motors from our factory here, just sitting on this block with the Jubilee sign, which then welcomes you into the factory. And of course I bobbed off all of the trees, so we have got our own tree palette in here, and I've redone this little centrepiece with a bit of fencing around it, a few roadies and stuff in there just to make that feel a little bit nicer in the middle there. Continued car parks, and then we come on around to the little nursery or our child health clinic, where I've just added in a lot of fence for security, a couple of extra car parking spaces there, but that's very much kind of as you had seen it before. Then we come in through the security barriers into the main entrance, and I've not done a huge amount with this really. Minimal prop detailing compared to some of my industrial builds. I've tried to keep it relatively clean, so there's only a couple of areas with trash in, but we have used a lot of our surface decals here just to rough up that concrete and make it feel a little bit more industrial. Lined up a load of trucks at the side of the warehouse here, a couple sitting around, a few lined up at the back, extra crates, that sort of thing. Nothing too major. I have just left a little bit of greenery here and fenced that off with a nice corrugated iron fencing, which I really like the look of. And then just a couple of extra containers lying around this warehouse, but very clean. And then in this green space, I've used a couple of the dirt decals, which sort of look a little bit more sandy, just to change up this little grass area and make it feel a little bit more run down. A bit of overgrowth in there I think helps that. And again, that's very much like we saw in the Toyota factory on Google Earth. There were bits of green that were, well, you know, perfect green grass. So that's what we've tried to replicate here. And of course, then the big long row of trucks with their line markings in it. And I've actually added in a road maintenance depot here just because I like the look of the building. It's a bit of an admin building. And again, with a few little props around the back. And this is really the one place where we have added in some trash and some burned out cars. I'm figuring they've been tested somehow and not passed. That's what I was thinking there. And then down the side of the factory, of course, we removed the fence, so it's all very open now, which I really like the feel of. And then we've added in a few industrial and office buildings down here just to bulk this out and help it to blend into the side of where the warehouses are, which I felt like was needed in this area. And then just coming on down the back, of course, we've fenced in the entire complex. So there is oil fencing that we've used all the way around. Then we come onto the massive, massive car yard here. This was an awful lot of prop line tool. Prop line tool has been overworked in this particular area of this build, but I think it's turned out pretty nice. The floodlights, the very samey coloured cars, all the same type of car, in fact, actually, but I think it's worked out nicely. Just dropped in a couple of extra industrial buildings here and really just marked out the surface with brush tool. Of course, using the decals as everywhere else. And again, a little strip of green there. Another road maintenance depot here, just because I liked how it looked and I thought it blended into being the kind of admin building for this car yard there. And then we come on to the test track. So I did change up the road for actually the Formula 1 track, the road that we did use. This is not functional. Obviously, we're not going to see cars going around it, but I think it's worked quite nicely. And then I've just really tried to copy what I saw on Google Earth here with a couple of little red and white curb barriers, a couple of them along here as well, some hatch markings. I'm not entirely sure what this is necessarily for, but again, this is how it was on Google Earth. A few cars lying around at the back here, one slightly overturned in the corner, and then these random bollards here as well. I'm guessing where cars queue up. We also have this little ramp that I added in, which was another thing I spotted on Google Earth as well. Of course, kept in the bank corners and added in a couple of little tyre marks here or there just to help the realism of it. But that was, yeah, pretty much it. So it's kept very open and very plain, how we saw it on Google Earth. Have added in, again, fencing all the way around this for security purposes, but obviously with the banked wall, it's, yeah, you can't see too much into it as you come off the highway here. So yeah, there we go. That is our motor complex. And now I want to come on to the name. And I don't know if you would have spotted in that little tour around, but I have put an RM on the side of the hill here. And the reason for that is really, like, when you're coming over this overpass, you're going to see that as you head on down. And of course, over this overpass as well, you're going to pass that. And I think it looks quite nice. I sort of copied the R of the Rolls Royce, but this is a hint at what we're going to call our car factory. Now, I am going to name it after one of my top tier patrons, and that top tier patron is Paul Raymond. So we are going to call this the Raymond Motors Inc., hence the RM there, brackets Paul. Thank you so much, Paul, for all of your support. I super appreciate it, and I really hope you like your car factory here. You're one of the OGs in terms of supporting my channel back in the early days on Twitch, so thank you so much for your support. And yeah, really hope you like the car factory. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares are, as always, really appreciated and help to get my videos noticed and picked up by YouTube. The forestry build did extraordinarily well, so thank you so much for all the absolute insane support on that. It was actually my best performing video I've ever had in the first 7 days, including from the F1 track. Obviously, that one went a bit nuts later on. But thank you so much for your insane support on that. But thank you so much for tuning in. That is all from me for now. Stay tuned for those cinematics, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.